Hey everybody, Karen Anderson here with Aortic Hope. Tonight's a very special live event. We're really excited to have Barbara Mountain and Christopher Doherty with Doherty, Cella, Keane and Associates. We have had this event going on now for probably quite a few years. I think probably since Aortic Hope really got started. And that's because I have personal experience working with this firm and I cannot say enough wonderful things. And we're going to talk tonight about how you guys can successfully navigate the disability process. So I'm going to give both Chris and Barbara a chance to introduce themselves, and then we're going to jump right in. But before I do that, click like or wherever it is on your screen. Click like, please. Click subscribe and click that bell so you're notified every time we go live and you don't have to try to remember. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Love having both of you here. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us,
Okay.
Karen.
Love your background, Chris. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and decide who goes first and introducing yourself.
Yeah, I'll go first. And that is a fake background. I don't really have a nice spot like that high over the ocean. But yeah, hi, thanks for having us again. My name is Chris Doherty. I'm the founding partner of Doherty, Cella, and Keane. We're a Social Security disability firm, and we established ourselves way back in November of 1995. So we're coming up on our 30th anniversary this November, which we're excited about. And all we do is represent people, getting them entitled to Social Security disability benefits. I practice with myself and two partners, Martin Keane and Laura Chella Donovan. And we have about 25 lawyers in total and about 100 employees overall, assisting people all throughout the country, getting them entitled to Social Security disability benefits. And a little bit more about my background. I used to work for the Social Security Administration. And while I was doing that, I was going to law school in the evenings and then kind of put the two of them together. And we haven't looked back since. And now I'll turn it over to Barb.
Great. Thanks, Chris. My name is Barbara Mountain. I'm the National Director of Business Development with Doherty, Cella, Keane. I have worked in the Social Security arena my entire working career. Right out of college, I worked for the Social Security Administration. I was a social insurance specialist, which means I had expertise in Social Security law and supplemental security income law. When I left Social Security, I worked in group market insurance for a long-term disability carrier, helping their claimants obtain Social Security benefits. And I've been with Doherty, Cella, Keane now for over 15 years, where I work with all of our staff in terms of Social Security expertise and helping our claimants obtain Social Security disability benefits. Because Social Security is not a super straightforward process. There's a lot that goes into it. It can take a long time. So we help guide claimants and do all of the work that we can for them so they can focus on their health, and then we can help them obtain Social Security benefits as soon and as quickly as possible, which, as we'll get talking about, is taking longer and longer these days.
I was going to ask about that. I talked about it with Chris before you popped on, before we became live. My concern was that with the decrease of staff across the board, in the government, that maybe that was impacting the time, maybe there was a lag. So before we even get into any of that, because I don't want people to automatically become very panicked and concerned, let's talk about the difference. What's the difference between SSDI and SSI?
Sure. Social Security disability is an insurance program for workers. So when you are working and paying your FICA taxes, that's your premiums for Social Security benefit. And Social Security is paid to people who are unable to work. So whether that's because you become retired or that's because you become disabled. So as long as you've paid into the program, you're eligible for a benefit. Now, you don't have to, it doesn't matter how much income you have. It doesn't matter whether you have, $1 million in the bank. You're still eligible for a Social Security disability benefit if you paid into the program and Social Security finds you meet their definition of disability. So it's a benefit amount that's based upon the amount you've paid in is the amount you get out. So again, it's like insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, SSI is different. SSI is supplemental security income, and that is a disability program for the blind, the disabled, and the aged. In that one, it matters how much money you have. It's for people who have very little income and very few resources. So you really don't have anything in the bank. For an individual, if you have more than $2,000 in all bank accounts, savings accounts, stocks, or bonds, you would not be eligible. So it is really kind of like a last resort type of benefit. And for that one, they're going to ask you about your income and your resources and where you're living. But for Social Security, none of that matters. Did you pay into the program and are you unable to work? And then you can file for Social Security. They're very confusing because they sound the same. You've got SSDI and you've got SSI. Now, Social Security, again, is funded by your FICA taxes, and SSI is a general tax revenue. And it's not actually Social Security, it's just administered by the Social Security program. So they're very different. But if they start asking you about income or resources, that's SSI.
So I think for the purposes today, we're going to talk about SSDI. So we're going to talk about something that you've already paid into. And I love when you keep referring to it as an insurance program, because years ago was the very first time I ever heard it explained that way, thought about it. And, I had shared that when I was working is when I had my aortic dissection. So I had my event, and due to other issues, it led me down the short-term disability path with my employer, which led into a long-term disability, which then FMLA ran out, and long-term automatically put me in touch with your firm. So there was no options. It was just like, here's a firm, we're going to have you meet with and there you were. So that's how I came to find you guys. And it was so hard for me, and I know it's going to be hard for others to accept that you might be this word disabled that everybody has attached some negative connotation to. And, years later, you just realize you're less abled or differently abled. And it's not about what that means in a sense of emotional, it's what it meant for me financially. Moving forward. And when you said, look, you've been paying into this, and I'll never forget, my son got his bonus check or his first paycheck as a college grad, and he's like, what the heck is FICA? What is all this that they're taking out? And I said, this is something you're going to maybe collect on one day. You got to pay into the government. This is what it is. And when you said to me, it's just time for you to come calling to collect on that insurance policy, it was like the light bulb went off, and I realized there wasn't a stigma attached to it. There was no anything attached to it. That I worked really hard for those years. And if I'm unable to work now, it's time for me to ask for some help. So let's talk about the process. And there's a couple different ways, right? Because people could be employed and they have that process. And then there's individuals who might not have been employed at the time that their event happened. So maybe you can go through a little bit about the requirements and how this works, and what the typical stages would be, what you would do first, second, third type thing.
Yeah, I'll handle this one. As Barb was saying, when people hear Social Security, they automatically think retirement, right? Old age retirement, but it is also survivor benefits. If a breadwinner passes away and they leave dependents, they can get benefits on that. And of course, we're talking about the disability. So what happens is the definition of disability that Social Security uses, you must be unable to engage in what they call substantial gainful activity for a period lasting 12 months or more, continuous period of 12 months or resulting in death. And what they mean by substantial gainful activity, that's actually a dollar amount. And right now it's $1,620 a month gross. If you're working and earning over $1,620 a month gross, Social Security is going to consider that you are working, and they're not going to look at whether in fact you are disabled. I sometimes use the example of someone who's blind. Sometimes, the sight disadvantaged people can work, but if they're legally blind and they stop work, then they're automatically considered disabled under Social Security's rules. But as long as they're earning more than a certain amount, they're actually different amounts for people who are blind than the 1620 I just quoted. But if they're earning over that blind SGA, substantial gainful activity amount, then they're not going to be considered to be disabled. But your question was, how do you do it? Well, once you're unable to work, and as soon as you're unable to work and you think you're going to be out for 12 months or more, I would suggest you go ahead and file for benefits right away. You can do it online through the Social Security website, and that's at www.ssa.gov, ssa.gov, and they have an online application, and you can file that way. The initial claim is the first application. It's taking longer than it ever has, and since Barb and I have been doing this, and we've been doing it for a long time, and it's the average time last year was, I think, 235 days on average at the initial level to make a determination. So that's almost 8 months. It used to be 110 days only about 4 or 5 years ago. So more people, there are more backlogs, and it's taking longer. And then should you be denied at that initial claim level, then the next step at the first appellate level is called the request for reconsideration. So if you get denied, definitely file that appeal if you're still unable to work, because they tend to deny a lot of people up front in this process. they only approve about 39% of initial applicants.
Mhm.
The reconsideration level, it's even worse. They only approve about 15 or 16% at that level. And then the hearing level, which is the second appellate step or a third step in the process, they approve about 50% of the cases. So it's
Okay.
the only system of law that I know your chances of approval actually increase the more you apply. Usually your decision and most appeals at the appellate level and various jurisprudence tend to, you get slimmer and slimmer. But so I guess the bottom line is if you're unable to work and you have a disability and your doctor supports you, apply for these benefits if you're going to be out for 12 months or more, and continue to appeal if you run into a no initially.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's good to know. And do you think it's taking longer for any particular reason? It's just because we've been doing this for a long time, and that is a long time for the initial.
And the reconsideration is just as long.
Wow.
The reason is the staffing. Social Security was at its lowest number of employees before they had Doge come in and actually have another
Yeah.
2,000 leave, and the goal to have up to 5,000 leave.
Right.
So they have less people to do the work. And it's
Okay.
not that they have less work to do. Matter of fact, they have more work than they've ever had because the aging baby boomer generations going into the retirement years, they're dealing with retirement claims as well. So it's really a problem right now with they just don't have enough people to do the work.
Okay. So if you're somebody who, I was talking to you about a situation with friends of mine who are going to be moving. Do you recommend that people, if you haven't had those conversations yet with a physician about disability, and let's say you are moving, do you recommend somebody wait till they arrive where they are, or just start it? Just start the conversations and let your medical history carry with you to the next physician. I mean, because you're going to need to have a doctor that supports this and understands why.
Yeah, I think the example you and I talked
Mhm.
about is that someone
Yeah.
is living in one state, unable to work, and is going to move to another. This is a federal program, so I would apply, especially with these delays. And if you need the income, I would apply immediately. And then you have that application. Then once you're settled, you have the address and maybe a new doctor. You can then let Social Security know, oh, by the way, I'm now, living in this different state. And what they'll do is they'll move that case from one federal office in one state to another federal office in another. But I wouldn't delay the application for the primary reason, as we talked about. It used to be 100 days to make a decision, 110 days.
Right.
Now it's
Yeah.
235. And remember that 235 is an average. If some poor person has, Lou Gehrig's disease or metastatic cancer, they're getting approved in like a week or two. So
Right.
that's 14 or 15 days. So that's added in with other people. So the average case can be, the average is 235, but many are much longer than that.
Okay. Okay. Um, so my next question to you would be, is this something that you still recommend somebody doing on their own, or if they're completely overwhelmed, can they call you guys or another firm to ask you to just take them, handhold them through the steps and start with step one and handle that application? Or should they do that first and then at what point do you guys come in?
Right
You
at the
can come
beginning.
in at
Yeah.
any level, at the
Uh-huh.
beginning or
Okay.
not. So I usually, when I talk to someone, I say, whatever you want to do. If you want to apply on your own, you can go ahead and do that. I had a
Hmm.
situation where my brother had to apply for a Social Security
Mm,
disability. And so I said to him, this is my older brother. I said, hey, this is what I do, right? I can do this for you. And,
right.
obviously not going to charge them. But he said, no, I got it. I'm a smart guy. I'll figure it out. And he called back about a month later. He said, I thought I applied, but I'm not sure. I think they denied me. And that was that SSI denial.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of confusion with this. Just like anything, we do it every day. We'll be able to tell
Hmm.
you, yep, do this. No, don't worry about that. And so I go to an expert in something that I'm not familiar with. So I generally would recommend that. But of course, it's up to you, the individual choice.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference having a representative on the case. I mean, that's
Okay.
statistics that aren't from us, actually from Social Security. It's significant. I might get this wrong. I'm pretty sure I've got it right. Though
Yeah.
a Social Security statistic says that if you have a Social Security attorney on your case, in general, through the whole process, you go from only a 17% chance of being awarded to 58% chance. So it is
Okay.
significant, the difference that having a representative makes on your case. From, right from the beginning, making sure that you fill out that initial application correctly, because yes, you can go file on your own, but the questions aren't as simple as you might think they are.
Yeah.
For date of onset. Well, was it a traumatic event, or did you go in and out of work? And if you went in and out of
Hmm.
work, there's questions to be asked to figure out how early and how far back can we go
Right.
to put your onset date. So I would definitely encourage people that unless they have a very significant disability, I would suggest getting a representative involved, literally
Okay.
just to help you through that process. And again, I think you have a much better chance of being awarded, particularly if you're denied. They make sure that appeal is filed correctly. They're going to get all your medical records for you. They're going to submit it to Social Security, preparing it in a way to show that you meet the definition of disability.
Mhm.
You're just going to have a better chance of being awarded.
Yeah, and
Why
it's
would
not,
somebody work? I was going to say, why does somebody work with an attorney? Because, as you say the word attorney, everybody says, well, how much percent are they taking? 33 and a third. And people get really ornery about the words attorney.
Mhm.
And I'm like, these are not ambulance chasers. This is not this. This is only
Yeah.
whatever's in their mind. So explain to people why, because I 100% cannot imagine doing this without the assistance of an attorney.
yeah, it's the Social Security system is not user friendly, whether it be their database, which is crashing a lot lately, or whether you try and apply in person and they'll make an appointment 2 months hence from
Right.
now, and you don't have time to wait like that. So
Yeah.
it's not user friendly. And I think was it Ronald Reagan that said, "What are the 9 most scary words or something? We are the government. We're here to help you," or something like that. Might have been Ted
Right.
Nixon. But
I
but
believe it.
anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, in the way the fee works is it's on a contingency basis, which means there's no fee unless you win the benefits that you're seeking.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
Social Security has to approve any fee that an attorney will charge. And they'll withhold it out of your past due benefits and pay it directly to the attorney. And that fee structure now is 25% of the past due benefits, but they put a cap on it. And the
Okay.
cap right now, it just went up this year, is $9,200.
Okay.
So that that depends on what the individual wants to do, but that's the way it is, and people aren't going to, like you said, they aren't going to steal like 33% of your benefits or something like that.
Right. Right. Perfect.
Right. And we
Okay.
don't charge for anything additional. So, I mean,
Yep.
some attorneys or a representative may charge for getting your medical records. Like, we don't charge for anything. There's no
Mm-hmm.
cost whatsoever unless you're awarded.
And to your point about the questions on the form, I mean, I know when I first filled it out, and this is for a lot of the newer people who have had a dissection or had open heart surgery, valve replace, whatever it is. I was so overwhelmed. I mean, if it just asked me, do you get along with people? I almost started to cry. I'm like, I don't know. Are you going to ask them if we get
Yeah.
along? I'm like, what kind of question is, do you get along with people? And then the other one was, can you crouch down? And I knew the answer was no. And I think what started happening is the more I started asking the physical questions, I started realizing the limitations. And then, like, the anxiety comes in and PTSD comes in. And so people have no clue how doing these forms can be very triggering in and of themselves. Because you have to then come to the realization of what your actual answer is. And it's not what it was before. And people 10 years down the road realize, well, it's fine. It's fine. But in the minute, it's so overwhelming. So if I had known to have somebody else do these forms for me, it would have been a lot easier, or even ask my husband, like anybody, to do it. I should never have been held with that. And then they wanted me to, we talked about this before, they wanted me to see their own therapist. And I had been seeing two different therapists no, one therapist at that time. And I thought, why? I don't know why they want me to see their therapist. And when I got in there and she had me write my name on a piece of paper, I mean, just the questions seemed so ridiculous and no empathy. There was no expression. So I felt nervous. An ambulance drove by and I like hit the deck because I was still having PTSD. So I'm like on the floor crying. And I told my therapist, I said, I think I failed. This lady's going to think I'm crazy. She said, no, I think you passed with flying colors. And then you had explained I probably never even needed to see them. If I had been talking with you guys, you would have said my therapist would have been enough. Everything. So again, talk to everybody a little bit about this and some of these other things nobody's prepared for in this process.
Yeah, it says right in the Code of Federal Regulations that they will set up a consultative exam if you need one.
Yeah.
But if you're seeing your own doctors and your doctors are supportive and are willing to submit information or a report, then it says right in there they should be the primary source to be contacted. So yeah, there are some people that can't see doctors for whatever reason. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
health insurance at the time or whatnot, and those are the folks should maybe go
Right.
to one of those exams. But if you have someone that you're familiar with, who's going to know you better? Someone who talks to you for
Mm-hmm.
half hour and writes a report, or someone who you're meeting with is, certainly a therapist, on a regular basis. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's something that sometimes Social Security gets lazy. They'll write for records. Doctors don't always respond right away. And if they don't hear in 30 days, once they're working on your case,
Mhm.
then they'll say, oh, let's set up an exam.
Right.
And,
Right.
sometimes it's hard to overcome those exams if they are, just kind of blasé or don't really come in support for you.
So let's talk a little bit about when you've been denied and then you do your appeal and you fill out your paperwork and then you get denied and now you have to go in front of the magistrate or the judge, because that is very scary. I mean, I don't even get a ticket anymore. Like, I never really did, but I don't want to go. My father, when I did, used to make me have to go, so I would be mortified and embarrassed. So you're not paying it. You're going to go and you're going to talk to the judge. So I don't do that. I don't like that. But I had to go, and I had to go with my attorney. And oh my gosh, I was so sick to my stomach and so nervous. And here I am dressed, as best as I could, because this is how I believe you dress when you go to court. You put your best clothes on, show the highest respect. And I'm standing there and I'm seeing some people take their back braces out of the packaging they just bought and they're wrapping them around their waist. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? I've never seen anything like this before. And I went in and the guy's like, I have your 867 pages. And then I felt, all these emotions. And then I felt embarrassed. I'm like, God, that's really that many pages. And when it was my turn to talk, I can remember just saying to him, I've worked since I was 14. I just need help for right now. Like, I can't even know what day it is today. And the vocational guy said that this is the jobs he said I was qualified to do. I'll never forget this. I was qualified to be a TSA agent and to uh, count pencils and put them in boxes. And I just was like, I didn't even know that these were like actual jobs they were seriously considering me to do. And then, my attorney's like, well, can she take a nap in the middle of the day? Because she does every day. She takes X amount of hours every single day. And the guy was like, we don't do siestas in this country. And I didn't know if I should laugh or cry. It was a very big experience. And I, yeah, I think people need to be better prepared for what goes on in front of a judge. And now I know sometimes they can do them from home. So can you talk a little bit about that wacky experience that they may encounter?
Well, it's certainly intimidating, right? Going before a judge,
Hmm.
the very word is they're judging you, right?
Right. Yeah.
And especially someone like yourself, and probably most people, they're used to working and they want to, that's what they want to do, and their go-to is to often minimize their symptoms, right?
Yeah.
But really, you had to go in person. That's even more stressful than the way it is now. Most of the hearings now are telephonic, meaning you're just on the telephone. You
Okay. Oh,
can
okay.
you can request to go in person if you want. This is all
Hmm.
since COVID, they've kind of changed it. Or you can request a video, kind of like we're on here now.
Hmm.
So it's a little less intimidating than going in there. But each case is different, each person's different. So we usually talk to them and say, how would you want to do that if we're coming
Hmm.
to a hearing? And you go before what's called an administrative law judge. And it's funny, they publish the statistics on how each judge does and their approval rate. And there's one in the country that proves only 4% of the cases that go before her. And there are others that approve, 75% of the cases
Hmm.
that go before them. So a little bit is the luck of the draw. The average is 50%, as we said earlier. So some of it is, based on the luck of the draw, right?
Hmm.
But it's important to know what the judge likes and how they like it before you go in there, and we can, play to that strength. You said you got all dressed up. Had we talked, I would have said, no, don't we want to do that? I would have said, you don't want to disrespect. See, when you're getting your speeding tickets, then you want to look good, right? But
I
if
was
you're
like,
disabled, you don't
suit
want to look too,
pants. I
yeah,
didn't know what to
right.
do.
So, and then what happens? The judge, it's the first time that someone is actually seeing you face to face or hearing you face to face in the
Hmm.
whole process. And I think
Yeah.
that's why 50% of the cases who've been denied twice are then approved,
Yeah.
because I think, everyone's got a story. And
Right.
obviously, the better work record you have,
Hmm.
that established your credibility well before you became in this situation.
Hmm.
And,
Hmm.
the judge is going to think, well, why did this woman, work her whole life at good earnings and suddenly stop?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, 867 pages, I think you said, of medical records,
Yeah.
was told that story. Uh, but yeah, sometimes they'll have in there a vocational expert who will answer hypothetical questions posed
Hmm.
by the judge. The judge will say, assume a person of whatever age the claimant is, and assume they're no longer capable of their past work, but they can do a sit-down job. Would they be at the jobs they could do based on that? And Social Security has all sorts of rules, and you can figure in based on your age and your education and your past experience
Hmm.
whether that makes sense or not to do other jobs or whether it doesn't. So
Right.
there's kind of a lot to it, which is why you don't want to, certainly you might want to apply the initial application on your own and take that
Yeah.
chance. Never,
Yeah.
ever should you go to a hearing on your own.
Yeah,
it's-
because I think you need your attorney to understand that there are still a lot of people in the community that have to take off 4 days minimum to go for a variety of different scans. And in your first year of employment, you might not be allowed, and then you don't have FMLA or any time to be able to take with this stuff. So you're probably going to possibly be dismissed anyway if you're taking that, that kind of time off unpaid. So
Right.
it's also interesting. I have one more question before I want to see who's here with us tonight. Children. I literally don't now. I'm sure I was told because my attorney was amazing. It was probably my mind and my memory, but I don't think I even realized, it didn't dawn on me that the benefits that I would have for having a minor child, which was so stressful to me at the time. Can you go through that a little bit?
Sure. Any individual who's receiving Social Security disability benefits or retirement benefits, if they have a child under the age of 18 in the household, that child can be eligible for a benefit on their record equal to 50% of the individual's benefit amount. So if the individual is getting $2,000 a month and they have one child under the age of 18, that child could get $1,000 per month. It does have to be a natural or adopted child.
Mm-hmm.
A stepchild's a maybe. You have to prove you're providing half of the support for the stepchild in the 1 year prior to disability to be eligible. But natural or adopted, benefits stop at the age of 18 unless they're still in high school. And if they're still in high school, benefits can continue until they graduate or they turn 19, whichever comes sooner. So if they graduate before they turn 19, that's when it would stop. If they're turned 19 in December, that's when the benefits would stop.
And that includes if you're given retroactive payment. If
Yeah.
it goes back, you'll get a half of that bulk payment as well. Okay.
Correct.
All right. See, there's so many things people don't know, and then they get this whole story in their mind. They think that's real, and that's not the real story. That's why I always like asking you guys these questions. Josh, going to check in and just see who might be with us this night.
Let's say hi to Tom and Molly. And we have an anonymous question in here.
Okay, wonderful.
I am currently in the middle of my trial work period. I've gone over the set amount about 5 times with the understanding that I have 4 more to go before it becomes one or the other payment, not both. This will continue for a total of 36 months. If I were to go back out on disability before the 36 months is up, but then return to work at a later date, would I get another trial work period? That's one of 2 other questions.
Unfortunately, once your trial work period is done, then you don't get it anymore. That 9-month trial work period has to fall within a 5-year rolling period. So sometimes you could actually get more than 9 months if you don't complete 9 months within 5 years. So the trial work period can roll, but once the trial work period is done, then it's done. So if you did go over, and so say you're working during your extended period of eligibility, that's that 36-month period they're talking about. If they stop work, benefits will start again. But then maybe 2 years later, so now they're well outside that 3 years, if they go over SGA, then their benefits will terminate. So once you've done that trial work period, then you just start this period of time that doesn't stop, so to speak.
Okay. So what would happen if I went out on disability after the 36 months?
If you went out on disability, so you were actually terminated. So you were working, you used up your trial work period, then you went into your 36-month period. At the end of the 36-month period, we're still earning over SGA, so your Social Security was terminated. You become disabled again. If you become disabled again within the 5 years from when you were terminated, you need to file again, but you have what's called expedited reinstatement of benefits, which means your benefits can start right away and you can get 6 months worth of checks while they're making the new decision. So you kind of don't have to wait. Now, at the end of the 6 months, hopefully they've made a decision by then. And if they have, then benefits continue. If they haven't, benefits will stop because you only get 6 months while they're making the new decision. You wait until the final decision, you're awarded, benefits start again. So you do get that special, I can come right back on. I do have to file. I do have to be found disabled again. And it does have to be the same disability. So it can't be a different disability. It has to be the same disability to get this expedited reinstatement of benefits. If it's over 5 years from when you were terminated, then you just like any new claim and you have to file a new claim and wait for your decision and then have benefits started again.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. So Allsup was the company that helped facilitate getting initial benefits. They were sent through Prudential. They've recently reached out and asked to take over navigating my trial work period and speaking directly to Social Security instead of me personally reporting my wages. I understand the pros of them taking over, but are there any cons that you have experienced with the situation? Thank you.
So what they're doing is they want to be this person's ticket to work provider, which means that they will just keep Social Security updated on it, and then they actually get paid money for doing that by Social Security. So the benefits to doing it is that you don't have to handle it. So, it's just it's less work for you to have them handle that for you.
Yeah, and most likely they're being, encouraged to do this by Prudential still, perhaps, if you're still on that benefit. And even if not, you won't have to pay them anything to do that. So I don't see a downside for you to go through them.
Back to you, Karen.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so then that leads us into backing up, and let's talk about working. Let's get into what it means. Let's start at the very beginning. So you've received your award and you say to yourself, well, I know I'm definitely not ready to go back full time or not what I was doing. Because believe me, I've thought about it sometimes. And as soon as I think about it, I end up in the ER. So I can't make it past 1 year without ending up in the ER. And that's always been my litmus. If I can get through 1 year, maybe I'll try to do something part time, and I can't. So you're somebody and you decide I'm going to try to work. Let's talk about what does working look like, and is it encouraged? And let's go through the whole thing.
Sure. Social Security wants people to go back to work. I mean, they want to be a program that's there for you while you can't work, the goal to get you back to work. And so because of that, they have work incentives designed to encourage you to go back to work. And as the caller had that question regarding a trial work period, the first thing is when a person returns to work, they get a 9-month trial work period. And during those 9 months, it doesn't matter how much they earn, they're still entitled to their full Social Security check. So it's an opportunity to try it out, see if you're going to be successful before you're at any risk of losing your benefits or being overpaid. So you get 9 months, no matter what you earn, you get your full Social Security check. Once you complete that 9th month, you then start what's called your extended period of eligibility. And that's 3 years, 36 months. And during those 36 months, anytime you earn over SGA, that's that substantial gainful activity figure, it's $1,620 per month. If you earn more than that gross wages in a month, you're not due your check. If you earn less than that in a month, you are due your check. So during that 36-month period, you go from being in pay to in work suspense to in pay to in work suspense. You can go back and forth. After the 36-month ends, the first month you earn over SGA, after that is when you would be at risk of being terminated.
Okay. What is that dollar amount again?
$1,620 is the 2025 SGA figure, substantial gainful activity. It does change annually. So every year it goes up a little bit, but this year it's 1,620.
Did it go up pretty good from last year? I feel like when we had this talk, was it like 14 or something? I can remember as far back at 11.
1550 last year.
1550. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
One
So
thing I
can,
would
go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. One thing I would add about that, returning to work is if Social Security hasn't made a determination on your disability yet, yes or no, try to wait till after the 12 months is up before you return to work. Now, obviously, if you're feeling great at month 7, go back to work. You don't need the disability. But if you're not sure and you might be awarded disability, what happens I've seen is sometimes people return to work at 11 months and so many days. Social Security hasn't made a positive decision on their case yet. It's pending. And then they return to work at day 355 out of 365. Then Social Security awards them, 3 months later. You're not entitled to a 9-month trial work period then because you didn't meet the 12-month period of being disabled first.
Right.
So if you're close at all to thinking of going back to work and it's near 12 months, wait until after that 12-month period, just in case they're eventually going to award you. Then you are entitled to that 9-month trial work period, which is great because you can figure out if you can get work, still get your Social Security disability, and collect them both for up to 9 months.
So what if you need to make something? You're waiting and you just cannot earn nothing. You can't earn zero. If you were once working full time, earning a salary, let's say 50,000, but you have an opportunity to maybe make half of that while you're waiting on a decision because they'll let you work from home, is that something? What's that going to do to your application?
Well, there are a couple of things. One, if you earn under that 1620, right, each month, then you're okay because they don't consider you working. So you can do that
Okay.
theoretically forever.
Okay.
1620 times 10 months is 16,000. So it's about 19,000
Okay.
or so if you do that every month.
Right.
So that's one way to do it. The other thought is sometimes you don't know if you can work, right? And maybe earn more than that. Social Security, while they're making a determination, allows what they call a 6-month unsuccessful work attempt. So say you're out of work for 6, 7 months. At month 9, you apply for benefits. At month 10, you didn't listen to what I just said, and you go back to work at 10 months rather than 12 months. But you're not sure if you can do it. If you try to go to work and you're able to work 5 months or less than 6 months and then stop again, that's okay, because Social Security, as Barb said earlier, is trying to encourage people to return to work. So they'll let you work for up to 6 months. And if you fail and have to stop due to the same disability, they're going to call that an unsuccessful work attempt and not count it as if you worked. And you can still get disability for that whole period if they make a positive and favorable decision after that date.
Okay. I'm
But
just
just to be
taking
clear, the
notes.
unsuccessful work attempt is only before you've been awarded. Once you've been
Right.
awarded, that we don't talk about unsuccessful work attempts. It's really just the period of time before you're awarded.
Okay, so you get the ball rolling. You've submitted your paperwork. 2 months later, someone offers you a job. You say, "Fine, I'm just going to try." And in 4 months, you're like, "I can't do this." Then you would have to let Social Security know, "Hey, I tried this. It's not working. I had to go back to the doctor. I just can't. I'm not ready yet." And then they'll say, "Fine, you tried, didn't work. We're still continuing our paperwork." You're not like losing any time in the decision making.
Correct. Yeah, you have
Okay.
it exactly. Yeah. And if you have to go to a hearing at some point, it's always good to be able to go before a judge, and the judge will ask, "Well, I know you can't do your past job. Have you tried any work at all over the last
Mm-hmm.
2 years?" And, many people say no, and that's fine. But if
Mm-hmm.
someone says, "Well, actually, I did. I tried to do an easier job, and I did it for 4 months. A friend set me up with it, but I still couldn't do it due to whatever your condition is." And then it kind of lends more credibility to it because,
Right.
the judge is thinking, well, they tried to do something else and couldn't even do that. So I always encourage people to try to return to work, even while they're waiting for a disability, decision. And if it works, great. Then you're back to work. You want to do that anyway. If it
Just so
doesn't
I'm not
work,
confused, what if you make more than that SGA, but you stop after 2, 3 months? It's still okay?
it's okay. Yes.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
But don't tell, if you're filing on your own, don't tell Social Security when you start work, because that will stop the claim right there.
Right.
Wait to see if it's more than 6 months, then yes, it's
Just
going to
do
stop
what
the
you
claim
need.
right there. If it's
Okay.
less than 6 months, then the claim will keep going.
Has anybody ever gone from working full time to now they can only work like very part time, gotten supplemental disability because they can no longer be a full time employee? Does that
Um,
exist?
generally
Like,
no, because the amount that SSI pays is quite low, between $700 and $900, depending on the state.
mm-hmm.
And there's usually essentially a dollar for dollar offset at whatever you earn. So it tends not to work out if you're on SSI to work, because
Okay.
that's almost considered like a kind of like a welfare disability
Yeah.
program.
So, but if you're somebody who has worked full time and the doctor's like you can't go back full time, you have permission to work part time, but nothing else. There is no way to apply for anything that would make up for what you're doing part time.
No, it's not a partial disability program.
Okay, it's
Unfortunately.
all or nothing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to check back in and see if there's any other questions because we're rolling through this tonight. We're going really
Let me
fast.
take a look at the anonymous questions here.
I've got all these notes and I'm checking my phone to see if there's any questions coming on my. Oh, wait, I got some questions on my phone. So
Yep,
let's see.
You'll have to take it then.
Okay, I'm going to take
Anonymous
it.
questions are still there.
All right, here's another. Oh, so this was the other anonymous person. So to clarify, after the 36 months is up, if the person makes over the SGA, they're at risk of losing their benefits. But as long as they stay under that SGA, they can continue to keep their Social Security benefit until they turn 65 and retire.
Yes.
After 3 months,
Yep.
as long as they're making less than the 1620,
Mm-hmm.
they can stay.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
You
yes.
could theoretically do that forever. Yeah. That's why they call it, sometimes they call it a cliff after that in 36 months. If
Yeah.
you go to work over that amount, you've used up your 9 months and 36-month extended period of eligibility. If you work then, you're
Mhm.
gone. You're gonna start all over.
Okay. If a person is working while receiving disability, is the amount of income allowed set by the state or federal government?
Federal.
That's federal. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Federal.
Yeah. So in some
All right.
in some instances, it's not really fair, right? Because
Yeah.
cost of living isn't always fair, equal in from state to state.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There's another one. I see, you know how you see the three dots and it looks like somebody's tapping their nails. I see another one coming in.
Right.
Josh, did you have anything on your end?
No, ma'am.
See, the crowd starts slow. They start slow. They wait to see what question someone's going to ask, and then they start building up. All right. So we have another one that's going to be coming in. Okay. So what I'm getting from all of this tonight, to summarize, in case I don't have another question after this one, is at the end of the day, I believe, my opinion is, it's a person's best interest is to work with a firm. Because I think from the moment you begin filling out those questions, it's going to be daunting. Even questions like, how long, like if you do have to nap, how, like, you I know that the answers of I nap all day. Well, that's not really an accurate answer, because you don't really nap all day. I know that what they want is very specific answers for certain things, and then maybe more generalized on other things. And I wouldn't have known that unless I talked with an attorney. And so sometimes handing that over and having that conversation, then the attorney knows how to write the answer based on your conversation, knows how to phrase it the proper way that it's going to be best received, I think makes sense. What you're saying is, if you're someone who, let's say, had to stop working because you were working at home and now they're asking you to come into the office and you're physically incapable of doing so, therefore you had to lose your job. Is that a point of, I'm just dawned to me, is that a moment of disability because the reason you're working from home is because you're disabled, even though you haven't been deemed disabled, you're unable, you're non-mobile. Let's use that word, because instead of disability, you're a non-mobile person. And that's why you chose the job to be at home. Employer asks you to come into work, you can't. Is that a moment where you can say, look, this is clearly not feasible, me trying to work from home? Can that be a moment where you talk with your doctor and you say, that's because you're disabled, you can't walk, you can barely stand? Is that count, or would it be the moment you discussed it with the doctor?
This example seems to be a situation where the person was clearly disabled, but was set up in an ideal situation where they're working from home. They
Right.
don't have to commute into work
Yeah.
by any way. So if it sounds like they're disabled working, despite it, right? So
Yeah.
I would think they would have a good case if they're unable to work, if that job goes away, and maybe they didn't have the connections to land another stay-at-home job. So
Right.
if however they could commute and it's difficult for them, but they're not, the example you gave, they're unable to walk. But I would say then that would not be a reason, because they lost their job, but there are other jobs you could work from home. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
Okay. I'm not seeing the other question come in unless it's really long. It's got to be really long.
I've got another anonymous question.
Oh, good. Go ahead.
All right. Hello. I have applied for disability and have been denied. I was told not to give up and to apply again, so I did. I was denied a second time. The reason for denial is that I did not earn enough quarterly before my emergency surgery in 2021. I explained to them it was because of COVID that I wasn't working as many hours as a substitute teacher. I was also taking college courses right before this so that I could get hired on as a full-time teacher. I've spoken to an attorney, and all he said was, yes, that's a valid reason for denial. He did not seem interested in seeing the documentation or pursuing it further. The person I spoke to at SS told me to get a job until I qualify, which makes no sense because I cannot work right now. I feel cheated. I haven't been able to work since 2021. Is there anything else I can do? Should I continue to pursue disability or let it go?
Well, Social Security rule is you have to have worked and paid into the system a certain amount of quarters prior to becoming old. It sounds like you were just shy, perhaps. I'd have to look at the documentation, but you have to work at least 5 of the previous 10 years from the date you became disabled which is 4 quarters a year. That's 20 out of the past 40 quarters. I think the question said you missed it by a few quarters short. So what you could do some very part-time work if possible, and then that maybe could, give you a few more quarters of coverage, depending on when you earned them in the past. But yeah, unfortunately, it sounds like what the attorney said to you is that, the Social Security system, you must work and earn the quarters and pay into it before you can even get to the actual, medical portion of the disability. And you either meet that or you don't. And if you didn't have enough quarters, then you simply didn't work enough and pay into the system long enough.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's back to that insurance policy that you're paying your premiums. You didn't pay enough in premiums to be eligible for the insurance benefit, because you don't have enough quarters is kind of a way to think about it, unfortunately.
Okay.
One other question here. I have yet to report 3 paychecks that I received last October, November, and December. Am I in trouble?
I guess it would depend.
No,
You're
nothing.
not, if you've never used up your child work period, then no big deal. Just give it to them whenever you can, and then they'll determine if you've used one of your child work period months or 2 of your child work period months. If you're in your extended period of eligibility, if you earned over SGA, then you may be overpaid for the month you earned over $1,620. If you earned under that in gross wages, then no issues, no concerns at all. So it really depends on where you're at in that process of the work in terms of your Social Security benefit.
Good question.
Hey, and back to that quarters of coverage question, I just looked it up because that's a figure that changes every year too. In 2025, you earned 1 quarter of coverage for every $1,810 earned. So I'm not sure of the facts with that person, but if they just missed it by 1 or 2, you could earn a little bit over time. You could do that over 12 months. If you earn $1,800, you get 1 more quarter. Again, I don't know if you're shy 1 quarter or 10 quarters, but that's something. If you have someone's name at Social Security who said work a little bit and you'll get it, maybe ask them how much you need to work, and they'll have your earnings record right there. They might be able to tell you exactly what you need to do. And again, you're in a catch-22. You're saying you're disabled and can't work, and they're telling you to work. Maybe you could do something over period of time and earn those extra quarters or 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on your
Back
end,
to you,
Josh?
Karen.
All right, because I have no more questions on my end. I think we covered it. I think we covered more than we've covered before in a shorter period of time, if
Yes.
that's even possible. I just want to let everybody know, if you have any questions, we will put up the website information for the law firm so you can reach out to them directly. If you have any questions that you'd like me to ask specifically, feel free to shoot us an email at info@aortichope.org. We will be sure to forward that information onward. Thank you so much again, Chris and Barbara. I always appreciate when you're willing to join us and educate us on something that is our insurance benefit and is so important for us to learn about and take advantage of. I do appreciate it.
Great.
Happy to be here. Thanks,
It's always
everybody.
wonderful. Thank you. And don't forget, everybody, please click like, please click subscribe, click the bell so you're notified every time we go live, and share this. I think this information is very valuable, not only for people in the aortic disease world, but it needs to be shared with people that have a variety of different disease elements and just find them themselves in a situation where they're unable to work. So thank you again, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Take care.
All right.